Hey, welcome people. This is another episode of Latino Vegano. And I'm your host Roger, and today I want to talk about dairy and how it can impact your health. But before I go there, I want to shout out to everyone that has subscribed to our podcast and the YouTube channel. And you haven't, so please leave us a comment and a review. That will help us a lot. So today I'm going to be talking about why you need to quit dairy forever. They're like, stop it.
Latina. Latinoyvegano.com.
So before I even go to our topic, I want to talk about how's been my experience with dairy in the last 20, 40 years of my life. I know for us Latinos or even Hispanic, cheese is big in our culture. Dairy is a huge staple in our diet. And I know many of North Americans, Central American, even South Americans, and even people from Spain, they have dishes that are heavily made of dairy products. I remember my mom's favorite dish is lasagna. She makes it from scratch during the Easter. My family also make Easter bun. Yes, for those that are unfamiliar with Easter bun is what we call bun bread. It's a very common during this month, the month of November, for a lot of Caribbeans and African descent. Since my family heritage comes back from Jamaica and Barbados, there's no doubt what Easter bun is part of our Thanksgiving celebration. Easter bun is sort of a raisin bread with tons of dry fruits and nuts that we eat back home with slices of cheese. Yeah, and that's not only the local tradition that we add cheese to it. There's so many others food that we add cheese to. I'm curious to know, what are some of the dishes in your hometown that are heavily on cheese and dairy? Because we have tons of mine. So why should you stop eating cheese? Why? So besides the multiple health implications that dairy brings to your life, it's also a big factor for our greenhouse gas emission and global warming. So it's not only bad for the environment, but it's also bad for your health, and it's also bad for the animals. So it's not good for the animal. So let me quote from the Center of Nutrition Studies, C. Colin Campbell. So besides the multiple health implications that dairy brings to our life, it also is a big factor for our greenhouse gas emissions and global warming. So dairy is not very good for the environment. It's not good for your health. It's not good for the animals either. So I'm going to quote a little piece that I read from the Center of Nutrition Study by the Dr. T. Colin Campbell. He says, this is a United Nations report calling for a global shift to a meat and dairy-free diet in order to reduce the impact of greenhouse gas emissions and global warming on our environment. Global shift in our use of meat and dairy to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, end quote. So as you can see, it is multiple studies, the multiple scientists behind the fact that dairy is not good for your health, it's not good for the environment, and it's not even good for the animals. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should completely dish dairy, or you should completely dish milk and cheese and any other product. So reason number 1, let me start with reason number 1, saturated fat. And I quote Dr. Michelle Simmons, JD, MPH. She talks about the politics of dairy in the Nutrition Center of Studies by T. Colin Campbell. So she said the following, quote, in fact, cheese is the single largest source of saturated fat in the diet, even more than beef, which is number 2. Also, 11% of all sugar goes into dairy product. You will think that soda and candy, of course, has sources of sugar, but 11% of all sugar goes into dairy alone. So that means dairy is a vehicle for some very unhealthy components of our diet, end quote. So as you can tell, cheese, dairy is high in saturated fat. So you have saturated fat and unsaturated fat. Meat has saturated fat, pork, chicken, cheese, all of that is saturated fat. Unsaturated fat is the fat that you're gonna find on whole food, plant-based food like avocados, nuts, and seeds. So you want to do unsaturated fat, not saturated fat, because we know that fat is important for our nutrition, but not saturated fat. Okay. So cost number 2, cow pus. Yes, this cow pus in milk and cheese. Why is that, Roger? Well, yes, most common gallbladder get infected after being injected with hormones and antibiotics so they can cow produce more milk. So all these cows get injected, and that injection or the bladders get infected, and that infection causes pus. So when they say they pasteurize the milk, it's not really very pasteurized. You might be able to strip some of it out, but you're still gonna get some. So you're all consuming all that kind of stuff. So you gotta be careful with that. Okay? Now, I had an interview with Dr. Jamie. I'm gonna go out and go on number 3 now. With Dr. Jamie Garzola Lancaster. She's a pediatrician, right? In episode 10 of this podcast, she talks about one thing, and she gave people one advice. And this is what she said.
Padres están disponibles, quieren hacer un cambio. Lo más que a mí me gustaría que hagan es quitar la leche de vaca. ¿Okay? La leche de vaca. Y mi familia no le gusta que yo diga esto porque mi familia son lecheros, ¿ok? So esto es algo totalmente anti-familia. Right. Pero la leche de vaca causa tantos problemas. Estreñimiento, dolor de estómago, acné, alza el riesgo de cáncer, alza el riesgo de diabetes, muchas cosas, ¿ok? Y es súper fácil reemplazar la leche. Hay casi 15 o más diferentes formas de leche basada en plantas. Y ahora ya hay muchos diferentes tipos de quesos y todo. Uno no tiene que ni sentir la transición a otras leches de plantas. So, si están disponibles, quieren hacer un cambio, eso es donde yo recomiendo empezar.
In a nutshell, what Dr. Jamie was saying is that if you want to make a difference or you want a place to start, she highly suggests for parents to stop drinking cow milk or dairy completely. And she also went ahead and said that based on her family value, since they're farmers, sometimes it goes against those values, but she highly suggests for them to stop milk because of all the health repercussions, all the health factors. And she started mentioning sickness like constipation, stomachache, acne, risk of high cancer, risk of diabetes, and even more. So she's saying that also there's a lot of good alternative out there. Plant-based alternatives is easy to make the transition, but all dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, all that stuff, completely wipe it out of your diet and replace it with plant-based alternative, which is a lot easier these days. So that was Dr. Jamie's suggestion. The full reason I want to talk about is so that cheese is very addictive. And the reason why is because of casein. If y'all don't know what casein is, it happens to be a very strong component or a protein component found in milk product or dairy products. So basically cheese is super addictive because of the casein and the casomorphins that it produces. So y'all now understand why you have been addicted to cheese for all this time. Yeah, it's kind of like a crack, actually. So y'all need to be careful with that. So reason number 5 is high risk of cancer. Well, the doctor said it too, but the consumption of dairy can increase a man's risk of prostate cancer by 30 to 50%, and also increase the body level of insulin, which is a well-known cancer promoter or activator. So there's a lot going on with cheese and dairy product. And to mention number 6, we also have weight gain, sinuses problems, allergy, constipation, diabetes, and many, many, many more problems. I'm giving you a quick breakdown of some of the things that you can get, some of the issues that the consumption of milk or dairy product can cause to your life. Now, I would like to talk about how can you stop it? What can you do, Roger? All right, well, you gave us all this good information, how bad this is, how it's not going to be good for our health or the environment, but what can I do? I'm already hooked into it. I'm already feel like I cannot live without my cheese. I need it, or I cannot go a while without my milk. So what can I do? All right, no worries. So I've been thinking about this, and I definitely would like to give you guys some advice on how can you actually start making move and stop, consuming this type of food that is actually killing you guys. So one of the things that you can do is, first thing is get educated. Do a little bit more research, investigate more, see all the studies. I'm gonna put a lot of the reference on a lot of the studies below. I'm gonna put the links in the description of this video so you guys can get familiar with some of the studies and why I keep saying that you need to live a healthy lifestyle, including having a plant-based whole food diet in you. So take into consideration that it has to be plant-based. So I'm gonna put a lot of the reference down below. So get educated. The first step is understanding, knowing, because they say knowledge is power, but the right knowledge is power. All right. What else can you do, Roger? Number 2 is keep a strong why. What do I mean with that? I always talk about you need to have a strong reason, a strong why. I like a goal, like an end goal, or why do you want to do things? Why is it important you do this? So by having a strong why, it's going to allow you to push yourself through to the emotions. If you have a strong why, it's going to allow you to keep moving forward and to keep thriving, to keep doing your best. Even if you fell off and you're going to get back at it because your why is strong enough. And in that way, you allow to have a longevity. It's like a marathon. It's not just a race. It's just literally, it's a long journey. So you want to have a strong why so you can continue pushing yourself to your end goal. So get that why. Start by substituting things first. So my third advice is focus on how can you replace some of the things that you cannot live with. So let's say that you are addicted to cheese. There's tons of alternative. There's tons of recipes out there. I have a few recipes on my YouTube channel, right? And I have even more on my programs as far as how can you make cheese from scratch if you say you can't find cheese on your local area or vegan substitutes in your local area. At the same time, I feel like you need to start thinking about what can you add to your plate, how can you substitute this, and you can take it away and then add this new alternative. There's a lot of alternatives out there. There's a lot of good brands. I have a huge list of brands that are good for you as far as that are really tasty, but mostly, and you can definitely incorporate into your lifestyle. So I will start thinking about alternative and how can you start replacing some of those things that you cannot live with, and start adding some of these alternatives, especially the plant-based alternatives, the one that I'm referring to. And the last but not least, I would like to say that find help. It's good to have a team, a group, a mentor, a coach. Yeah, a group that you can rely on. Either it's social media or it's a private coaching. Just find resources. Find resources to make your transition a lot smoother. I created a whole plan, a whole program that focus on helping people thrive on a plant-based lifestyle. Basically, the whole program gives you step-by-step guide. How can you stop and quit dairy for good and live a healthier lifestyle? So things like this, and even if not in my program, it's somebody else, just find help, the right help that it can allow you to thrive on this lifestyle, and you don't have to worry about not being able to live happy and healthier. Okay, guys, so in theory, we all know now that all the studies, all this information out there, all these doctors and scientists are saying that dairy is bad for you. No matter how they want to sugarcoat it, no matter how many laws they create, the bottom line is that dairy products are bad for your health, bad for the environment, and it's bad also for the animals. There's nothing else to say about that, right? So, and I will include whey protein as well. That's not good at all. No way, Jose, like they say. So I know that we have heavy paradigm and our culture is so engraved in having all these food that are heavy in dairy. But the good thing is that you can make or replicate those meals using plant-based alternatives, which are a lot healthier for y'all. They're a lot healthier. So use plant-based alternative to recreate those dishes. I'm not saying don't eat your local food or don't eat some of the foods that you are accustomed to eat or grown up eating or actually making now. I'm just saying substitute some of the ingredients that are animal-based with plant-based alternatives. You can either make it from scratch. You can make cheese from scratch. I have a couple of recipes on my YouTube channel, and I have even more in my program. Or you can actually buy these products if you have the accessibility or the capital or the money to buy this also. So please be aware that there's a lot of health repercussions with consuming animal-based protein, including dairy, including cheese, meat, and I want you guys to have a happy and healthier life. I do really care. So I want you guys to have a happy life. For those that need help, for those that are looking a way to transition, they need help and quitting the eggs, dairy, cheese, all these, I have created a program. I have a program that has step by step a guide. How can you quit dairy in 90 days and live a happy and healthy plant-based lifestyle? Just shoot me an email, contact me either one of my social media, either Instagram. I'm heavily on Instagram. I'm heavily on Facebook, and I'm also available via email. Or just you can go to latinovegano.com and then go to the content section. In the content section, you can just drop me a message. And I will honor you a 40% discount off the price of the program if you say that you listen to this episode and that you were interested in the program. So guys, it's been a pleasure. Love you guys. Do great things. Stay healthy. Stay vegan. Go vegan. Eat a plant-based whole food diet. And prosper. All right? Love you guys. Los quiero mucho. Peace. Love.
Gracias por escuchar Latino y Vegano, un show donde se habla todo lo relacionado sobre el veganismo entre la comunidad latina. No olviden suscribirse a este podcast, seguirnos en Instagram, Facebook, YouTube y a visitarnos en latinoyvegano.com.